at first glance, this Pokemon might seem a little bit simple, but well, these little Pokemon are actually quite fascinating, and they're really good examples of cooperation, teamwork, and family behavior, if you can call it that, right? And with that being said, today's lesson will focus on Tandemaus right here, and obviously its evolution, Maushold, as well. So as you know, these two are my little helpers. They've been here pretty much every class. And as it turns out, I believe this week was actually Teacher Appreciation Week. So I thought we could appreciate these little two by learning about them. So, with that being said, let's begin. So, Tandemaus is known as the couple Pokemon. The couple Pokemon. And it is a normal type Pokemon. Now, the average Tandemaus is about 0.3 meters tall, or approximately 1 foot. And yes, these ones are very, very small. And they weigh about 1.8 kilograms, which is 4 pounds. And yes, that is the weight of both of them together. So the weight for one would be half of that. Now, one of the first things that anyone might notice about a Tandemaus is the fact that it's never alone. It's never alone. Tandemaus always appears as a pair of mice living together in complete harmony. And you can also see this by the fact that, there are two creatures, one little mouse and two little mice. But they are one Pokemon, and they will even share a Pokeball. Neither one is considered to be more important than the other one, and they divide their responsibilities 100% equally between themselves. Now, biologically, right, Tandemaus has very soft white fur with cream-colored little paws, ears, and on the back here, little tails. They have small, rounded bodies and a round head, as you can see as well, with really large ears, as I said, paws, and as well as tiny black eyes and a very small black nose as well. As I said, they also have a small tail with a sort of sphere at the very end of it. Now, back to their coloring a little bit, right? As you can see, they're white or cream colored, but one of them will have a light gray patch of fur around its chest, and the other one will have this gray patch of fur surrounding its legs. And you can actually, hopefully, see it here as well. As you can see, this one right here has a little bit of gray on its legs, and this one right here on its chest. And it is believed that they're meant to represent a t-shirt and pants or trousers, respectively. And it is a way to identify one little mouse from the other one. Lastly, Tandemaus have a really big mouth with a single tooth on the top center part of it. Tandemaus are also constantly grooming itself and each other, making sure that they are clean and in healthy condition. This obviously makes them really clean Pokemon, and we will get to that actually when we look at one of its moves that it learns that has to do with this cleanliness. They're also known for communicating quietly through tiny squeaks and subtle gestures that, humans might not even be able to perceive or to notice. Now, in terms of their behavior, as you can probably imagine, Tandemaus is males together, and they will defend each other instinctively, In fact, they do everything together, and to the point that if one member becomes separated for whatever reason, the other becomes extremely anxious almost immediately. So it shows that they are really, really, really dependent on one another. Now, when it comes to their habitat, Tandemauses can honestly live in a lot of places, but they tend to live near towns, villages, basically human structures, as well as other peaceful plains where they can just, have fun and be together and enjoy life together. Tandemaus is not an aggressive Pokemon. Instead, they rely on their teamwork and coordination to survive, and so they avoid conflict whenever possible. They just like to be there with and for each other, and nothing else matters. They don't want to fight. They don't want to anything else that is going to get in the way of their connection. Now, as a little fun fact about the name Tandemaus, right? Where does that come from? Well, the name comes from the word tandem, which means, together, combined with the word mouse, which is actually the German word for mouse, which obviously it also works in English, let's be honest, but spelling-wise, that's what it is. Now, everything said about Tandemaus here, let's move on to its evolution, okay? Because its evolution is actually really interesting, because Tandemaus will actually evolve into Maushold rather randomly. I know. Now, there does seem to be like an amount of experience required, like most other Pokemon species, but the evolution just kind of happens, unlike most evolutions, it just kind of happens. Like, it doesn't have to be like, oh, they won a big battle, they evolve now. It just happens. And also, unlike a lot of evolutions, rather than simply, growing larger, growing, wings, like some Pokemon do when they evolve, or changing their form dramatically, Tandemaus suddenly becomes an entire family, as you can see here. So they pretty much just, they have kids, and that's how they evolve. I know, bit crazy, but yeah, apparently that's how it is. So, before we look at Maushold, are there any questions about Tandemaus right here? Oh, why are these two not evolving? I think they're too busy helping me out to have kids. And also, having kids, what, in this economy? Anyways, let's move on. Now, Maushold is known as the family Pokemon. And obviously, like Tandemaus, it remains a pure normal type Pokemon, so it is only a normal type Pokemon. Now, Maushold is actually the exact same height as Tandemaus at 0.3 meters tall, or approximately 1 foot. As you know, the parent or larger mice are going to be the same size because they're the same mice. However, its weight will obviously change, as one of the smaller mice weighs around 0.5 kilograms or 1.1 pounds, and you have to add that to the total weight of the Maushold. Now, interestingly, right, Maushold actually has two different forms, and they actually have to do with how many mice are there. Now, the most common and more standard form is known as a family of 4. And this basically consists of the 2 original adult or larger mice and 2 of the children or smaller mice, right? However, 1,000 Mausholds. Maushold can actually be a family of 3, where there is only one child or small mouse. Now this is completely normal for the species, right? And it is simply a sort of rarer family structure. So everything is good there. But it's just an interesting thing that happens. Now, biologically, Maushold behaves less like one Pokemon and more like an entire household unit, right? The adults or bigger mice are constantly taking care of the children or smaller mice, and the children imitate nearly everything that the parents will do. So they will constantly be copying them, like, okay, well, you went for food, I'm gonna go for food too, you know. Now, Maushold, just like Tandemaus, and as you can imagine, they work together as a family to gather food and materials, and again, they do absolutely everything together. And you know, the Pokemon obviously demonstrates extremely coordinated teamwork with every member of the house, I guess, or the family, contributing equally. You know, it's all about equality. It's all about everyone does their share of work. Now, before moving on, I mentioned every member of the house, right? Because, as you could probably guess, the name Maushold comes from Maus, which is German for mouse, as we know, and the word household, because they are basically a household of mice. Now, let's move on and look at Maushold's moves. I think first of all, I would like to look at its signature moves, which is the move that only Maushold can learn, or the Maushold line can learn, right? And that move is known as Population Bomb. Population Bomb. Now, what does Population Bomb do? This move allows the entire family to attack repeatedly in rapid succession, you know. So it's like this one goes boom, and then this one boom, boom, boom. It's like they kind of gang up on you a little bit. And this attack can hit the target up to 10 times on one single attack. So it's one attack that can even do 10 hits. Now the average amount of hits is usually 6, but you know, there are items, for example, that you can give to a Pokemon that give you higher odds, that make them hit more times. But it can hit up to 10 times, which is insane considering it's one attack, you know. And obviously, if every hit connects, the total damage is really, really powerful. It's a lot of maybe not super powerful hits, but they all add up, you know. It's like you've been hit essentially 10 times. And I think Population Bomb perfectly represents Maushold's cooperative family, I guess battle style as well, with every member contributing to the attack and doing this attack together, you know. Now, the second signature move, I guess we can call it that, is called Tidy Up. Tidy Up. Now, this is technically also Maushold's signature move. However, there have now been reports of some Sentret and some Minccino being able to use it as well. Now, what does Tidy Up do? So, Tidy Up removes entry hazards, removes substitute effects from the battlefield, and also increases Maushold attack and speed stats. So essentially, right, Maushold cleans up the battlefield so that it can become faster and stronger afterward. This also lines up with Maushold being a very clean Pokemon, you know, since they're always cleaning up. So Tidy Up is a perfect move for them. And trust me, they always help me tidy up when we're done with class. Before we move on, by the way, I just wanted to mention, right? That move sounds insanely good. Am I crazy? You know, if you know the move Dragon Dance, right? it's essentially that, but with extra little bonuses. So I feel like if a stronger Pokemon would learn it, it would be a problem. Population Bomb, honestly, too. No offense to these guys, but they're not the strongest little Pokemon. But yeah, so you increase your attack, you increase your speed, you remove any hazards like, toxic spikes, stealth rocks, and you even remove substitutes from the opponent. Like, what is this? That's insane. No. Anyways, with all that being said, I think it's time we look at Tandemaus and Maushold's abilities. Now, this is a really interesting case because Tandemaus has 3 abilities and Maushold has 3 different abilities, which is quite rare in evolutionary lines. I feel like usually they will keep at least one or all of the abilities upon evolving, but that's not the case here. So, let's start with the pre-evolution. Let's start with Tandemaus. Okay. So it gets 3 abilities, and those ones are Run Away, Pick Up, and Own Tempo. So what do? Run Away essentially allows Tandemaus to successfully escape from wild Pokemon battles. Nice and simple. They can run away. They don't want to fight. They're not an aggressive Pokemon. I go away and run away. Now, Pick Up allows Tandemaus to pick up items from the ground, like this little Pokeball here, for example. And now they have an item. They can, they can give it to you, or they can use it themselves, whatever it is. And the hidden ability that they can have is Own Tempo, which prevents Tandemaus here from becoming confused or intimidated, which is why they're such a good teacher assistant for me, because they're never confused and they're never scared of anything that may happen in the classroom. Now, however, when Tandemaus evolves into Maushold, it will have 3 different abilities, and those are Friend Guard, Cheek Pouch, and Technician. Now let's go through them quickly. So, Friend Guard reduces the damage taken by allied Pokemon in battle. And I think this reflects again with Maushold's, protective family behavior and teamwork. They're always like, protecting their allies, making sure that, the other little mice is okay. Now, the second ability is called Cheek Pouch. Cheek Pouch. And what this does is essentially when Maushold eats a berry, it will restore additional health afterwards. So, you eat a berry, it heals you. With Cheek Pouch, it will heal you even more. And this doesn't have to be only with a berry that heals you. You can eat a berry that, cures you from being burnt. Well, because Maushold has Cheek Pouch, they will cure the burn as the berry should do, but it will also heal the Pokemon regardless. And the last hidden ability, which is the hidden ability that they can have, is called Technician. Now, Technician is quite powerful, and what this does is it will power up the move of lower base power moves, right? So, lower base power moves, so moves that are naturally not so strong, will do more damage because this Pokemon has Technician. So, as a fun fact, right, for example, Population Bomb is not really a super strong move. What happens with Technician? Population Bomb gets an attack boost. And considering that it can hit you 10 times, if it's hitting you 10 times with this extra attack boost, it's very powerful, it's very scary. Considering that, look how tiny these Pokemon are. And I think that's everything, honestly, with Maushold and obviously Tandemaus over here. As a little conclusion for today's lesson, we're gonna say that although they appear, small and harmless at first glance, these Pokemon are really good examples, in my opinion, of cooperation, family behavior, and, caring for one another, protecting each other, being there for each other, and also having this connection having this really strong connection with someone. This entire line obviously is built around companionship, teamwork, and trust between its members, and I think that is great, and that is something that we should apply to our daily lives, to our friendships, to our companionships, to our connections, So, keep that in mind. Anyways, thank you so much for listening, and thank you so much to my little assistants here for actually being the subject of the class today. And I will see you on the next lesson. Goodbye. Bye 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 bye.